You're listening to the 49 Carats podcast, a 49ers Goldmine production with Stephanie Sanchez.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another edition of the 49 Carats podcast. I'm your host, Steph, and joining me today to recap the 49ers' first three picks of the NFL draft is Karan. How you doing today, Karan?
Pretty good. Came into the draft pretty excited, left slightly less excited, but it's been a good day nonetheless.
Nathan says this was a roller coaster. Yeah, that's exactly what I titled this video. At first when they made the pick for Brown, I was like, yo, this is going to be great. Like, getting off to a good start. They killed it. So that's what I called the video at first. And then after I saw the other two picks, I was like, I got to rename this because it was truly a roller coaster. The 49ers started off the day by trading some picks. They traded up to get to 87. So that got us all pumped. That got us excited. Joe Staley announced the pick. We were ready to go. And it was Ji'ayir Brown. So we were even more excited about that, right? I mean, Penn State safety, he's been mocked to the 49ers a ton. And I think a lot of us were just hoping that he would be there for the 49ers. And of course, when you move up, you definitely make sure that you get someone you like. He was someone who had a top 30 visit with the 49ers. And as you can see, his career stats at Penn State, 153 tackles, 19 tackles for loss, 10 interceptions, 9 – is that – wait. Like, what does that say? It gets cut off.
That's a 9, I think.
All right. Yeah, 9, 3 forced fumbles, 3 fumble recoveries, and a pick 6. So it seems like he gets to the ball. That's what's really exciting about Ji'ayir Brown. And so before we get to the low points of this draft, I think we got to talk about Ji'ayir Brown because this is a pick that gets me excited. And it kind of feels like a Steve Wilks pick. What'd you think about this one?
Yeah, no, I think the exact same thing when it comes to Steve Wilks. I think Rich tweeted it perfectly. He's great at coming downhill, great at coming in on blitzes, which is kind of a staple of Steve Wilks and his safeties. And we've kind of talked about Steve Wilks all along. He's been a big DB guy, and that's been different from DeMeco Ryans, who's a linebackers coach. So I think it's important that they emphasize that with this pick. He's great at coming downhill. He's versatile. He takes some reps at nickel if he has to. And, I mean, as it says, 10 interceptions in 2 years as a starter. So, I mean, there's a lot to like there. He's an explosive player. I think this is probably the best pick they could have had considering the situation. I mean, there's obviously more explosive options there, but I think this was a home run pick at least. We'll get to the other ones, but this was a great pick.
Yeah, for sure. And, one thing – so he had a pre-draft interview with the Draft Network, and one thing that stood out was this quote. He said, "I love playing the high safety role. That's where I thrive. Being back deep, whether in split safety looks or in a single high, that's where I best see the field." And this, just screams Steve Wilks because, in Carolina, he ran a lot of single high. You kind of wonder with Tashawn Gibson how that's going to look. But I think like Ji'ayir Brown's definitely, it seems like that's a great fit. But he could also, they could line him up anywhere, really. He was pretty versatile for the Penn State. Let me just say Penn State. He was very versatile for them, and clearly that's something that the 49ers value in their secondary. If you look at all the free agency pickups they've made this offseason, it's been a lot of versatility. So definitely will fit in there. And Daniel Jeremiah, who, is a draft analyst, said that Brown was his top safety in this class. He said he reminds him a lot of Micah Hyde. So definitely some high praise for him there. And so I'm pretty excited about this pick. Seems like it's going to be a great fit.
Yeah, no, I agree. And another thing worth noting is there's been a couple of reports now that he was a great leader for Penn State, brings a lot of energy. Yeah. He's a high character guy, so I'm sure that played into the evaluation, especially at safety. You want a vocal leader, and so I think this is about he checks all the boxes. He's a versatile player. He'll be able to play early, and once Gibson is either retired or off the team, I think he'll have an easy path to becoming a starter.
Yeah, I think so too. Who knows? He might even give Gibson a hard time in training camp this year. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, it's
We'll
really
wait and see.
all the options are open.
Yeah, for sure. But things kind of took a turn after this pick. You know, we were feeling good. We were excited, and then the 49ers get their pick 99. I was excited that they kept pick 99 despite trading up. And I was like, okay, maybe they could get a speed rusher, they could get a tight end. There's a lot of options there for them. A lot of good talent that fell that I thought personally was going to go a little bit sooner. But the 49ers went a little different direction. They get a kicker who a lot of people were thinking would probably go in the 4th and 5th round. And granted, he is considered the best kicker in the draft, Jake Moody, right? But maybe the fact that the 49ers didn't have a 4th round pick in this draft kind of, inspired this pick at 99 because it is at the tail end of round 3. But still, like, I don't know how I feel about this one. They must really, really like him. I mean,
Yeah.
I get it. I get it. He was the best kicker in college football. But it's still just the positional value. I kind of question this one a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, with the kicker, there's only so much you can really look at in terms of an evaluation. I mean, he played 5 years as a starter. He was the best kicker in college football for each of the last 2 years. He won the Lou Groza in 2021. So, I mean, you can clearly see like he was going to probably be off the board in round 4, early round 5, which they traded their pick to get Ji'ayir Brown. So I get it. But I also question kind of why it came to this point. I mean, they probably could have gotten a kicker. They got Zane Gonzalez through the trade, but they could have, if they wanted a guy that they were confident in starting week 1, they didn't have to put in a 3rd round pick to commit to that. So it's a weird situation.
At least get them at 101. I don't know.
Yeah, that one was weird too. I mean, you have 2 picks within like 3, and they take the kicker in the first one. It was just they clearly wanted the guy, but I don't know.
Look, I get it. It's hard to, like, right now we just judge draft picks based on where everyone else kind of feels these players are going to go. In a year or 2 down the line, we may not even care that they drafted Jake Moody in round 3 because he's maybe so good that we don't even care, right?
Yeah, but that's the thing though. It's a kicker.
It's a kicker.
with the safety, you've seen the guy play coverage. You see traits that can translate. With the kicker, it's just kicking a ball through 2 posts. If the pressure kicks in, if something happens, I mean, it's a matter of making or missing a kick. So there's really it's kind of just a blank slate until we see him kick through probably like the first few games of the season.
Yeah, it's been pretty hard, I guess, to like gauge college kickers. Like the transition into the NFL seems to not be the smoothest for some kickers. Like guys who have been really good in college have gone to the NFL and just like not been great. They often don't get a second contract. Like, so
it's such a small margin of error. I mean, the main guy that comes to mind is the Buccaneers drafted a kicker in the 2nd round. I think it was Roberto Aguayo. Yeah, and he just completely there was nothing. It was not happening. So I mean, there's obviously examples of kickers who are good. I mean, the Bengals took Evan McPherson a few years ago. There's guys who are good kickers that get drafted pretty high, but there's also just like there's not much like correlation. I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, I think so too. And you mentioned Zane Gonzalez too, who a lot of people think is a good kicker, right? If he's healthy, of course, like he's coming back from an injury, so that may not be 100% a sure thing, but you already had a kicker, so like I feel like they didn't need to do this, and go this high. But clearly they felt that they did. One thing that I know Matt Barrows had mentioned that they liked about Moody is the fact that not only is he a very calm kind of kicker, he's kicked in really big games. So he has that big game experience, that comes with added pressure and things like that. And the 49ers are a playoff team. So it makes sense that they want someone with that type of experience and has played in big games like that before and doesn't get too rattled. Another thing that Barrows mentioned was that he has experience kicking in a lot of types of weather, right?
Yeah.
You know, in Michigan, those winters, he has experience with all of that as well. Whereas someone like Ryland, Chad Ryland, I believe he's out of Maryland, right? The other kicker,
Yeah.
who I think would have probably been an option for the 49ers, didn't really have that same experience. So clearly it seems like those things mattered a little more to the
Yeah.
49ers, where they felt like Moody had to be the guy for them, I guess. But look, with these first two picks, safety and kicker, it seems like the 49ers definitely trying to address a need. Again, it's not the need that maybe all of we thought. We were all thinking a tackle, right? Meanwhile, Blake Freeland still available. And so, yeah, I guess maybe they have a different idea than the rest of us, as is always the case. But definitely going to be interesting. It'll be a fun training camp battle between Zane Gonzalez and Jake Moody.
Yeah. I
That's
mean,
can't miss TV right there.
we've got the Trey Lance, Brock Purdy like equivalent kickers. It's a like must-see TV. It's a good way of putting it.
Yeah, so let's talk about the next pick, because just a few picks after they picked Jake Moody, they got another player who they had in for a top 30 visit, Alabama tight end Cameron Latu. Now, if I'm not mistaken, this is the first Alabama player that they've drafted since Reuben Foster, right? They've had a shaky relationship with them since that time, but Cameron Latu also kind of a confusing pick, just because some people didn't really regard him as probably being the best available tight end that was on the board there. Will Mallory was still available. Braden Willis, who they also really liked, was available.
Yeah.
And so Cameron Latu, I feel like that's someone who could have been available for them probably in the 5th round. Quite honestly, I see a lot of people in the comments, asking about Darnell Washington. The thing about Darnell Washington, I know a lot of people were asking, why is he falling so much? We heard that it could have been like his medicals were bad. I heard it was like a fractured foot, and he had a shoulder injury as well.
Yeah.
Or at least something with his shoulder was showing up in the medicals.
Yeah, there were some talks about his knee as well. His knee was coming up.
So if that's the case, like for a team that felt like they maybe need a contributor right away at tight end, maybe Darnell Washington, not the best fit for them at that time, although I still think it could have been great value. Now looking at the Cameron Latu pick and thinking about Darnell Washington, it kind of makes you wonder because I feel like, again, at that point, maybe you could have just gotten Washington and gotten some good value, but I don't know. Maybe those medicals were just pretty bad. What's your thought on Latu? Personally, I don't know too much about him. I didn't watch too much of him, but it seems like the last 2 seasons, 56 catches, 787 yards, 12 touchdowns. So, he had some contributions in the red zone, 14.1 yards per catch. So, but yeah, that's pretty much all I know about him at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing with Latu is you kind of know what you're getting. He's played a lot of football at a big name school. He's played in a lot of big games. The stats kind of speak for themselves. He's a productive player when he gets the ball, and he's also really good at shedding off first contact. I wouldn't say it was a surprising pick in the sense that they took a tight end. I think everyone sort of expected them to take a tight end, but at the same time, taking Latu was definitely. I never saw him as a 3rd-round player at any point when he was at Alabama. They talked him up in 2021 as this high character guy who kind of worked his way up in camp and had become a contributor. And then last year he continued that and he was a consistent player. But at the same time, I mean, he doesn't really have any traits that stand out to you. He's sort of just solid all around. He's a good blocker, high motor. He's a good receiver, good after the catch, but he's not really an amazing player. He's got a good frame. One thing that he struggles with, I guess, that's kind of floating around Niners Twitter, is he's had a high drop rate over his career. But I wouldn't put too much into that. I mean, he had 3 drops in the entire 2022 season. It's sort of just a inflated statistic, I'd say. But I mean, he is like, by definition, he's a tight end 2. He kind of fits everything you want out of a tight end 2, sort of similar to Ross Dwelly in a lot of senses. So I can see what the appeal was there. If they didn't want to go with like the super athletic Zach Kuntz, for example, like a super athletic tight end who doesn't really have much technique. Latu is definitely experienced, and he's going to be able to play from day one. It's just it's a question of how high his ceiling is, really.
Yeah, personally, I still feel like this pick shouldn't discourage them for trying to get another tight end. I mean, It's a really deep tight end class. Warner and Dwelly just haven't really moved the needle for the 49ers that much. So if you can somewhat replace both of those guys in the next couple of years, I think that would be ideal. Now is the draft to do it. It's not often that, tight ends of this caliber, there's so many in one draft, right? So I think they got to take advantage of that opportunity. And being that, Latu isn't that like clear cut, very, should I say, I don't know, just like one of the top tight ends. I feel like they could probably get someone else with a little bit more upside, maybe later. I mean, I hope Braden Willis makes it out of the 4th, and hopefully it's still available with one of their 5th round picks. I would love him, but I think some talent's going to fall to the later rounds, so there could be someone else they can grab in the 5th round. That's just my hope.
Yeah, I think with the 49ers, the draft kind of starts in the 5th round, and you just hope from there.
Yeah, for sure. That's when they get all their gems. We don't pay attention to the 3rd round for the most part. Here's what Jordan said on Cameron Latu when he had a mock draft for him. Is what he said. Recruited out of high school as a top defensive end prospect, Latu made the switch to tight end and was a key contributor on an electric Crimson Tide offense. He set the school record for touchdowns in a season by a tight end with 8 in 2021. Also was one of only 3 collegiate tight ends to receive an invitation to George Kittle's tight end university in 2022. That last part is pretty impressive. I mean, to be only one of the 3 tight ends of college football to get an invite is pretty cool. Not sure what the criteria was for the invite, but that's definitely cool. So George Kittle does have some firsthand experience, I guess, of seeing Latu up close, and who knows, maybe George Kittle gave a little plug on Latu and gave a little whisper to John Lynch's ear or something. Who knows?
Yeah, I'm sure George had some sort of say in it. I mean, Jed York was tweeting about how the players had a say in the Ji'ayir Brown pick, so I wouldn't be surprised if George played a role in that. That connection's definitely valuable.
Yeah, very interesting. Yeah, George drafted. Yeah, definitely interesting. Strategy to let your players, I guess, make those types of not they're not making the decision, but to just have them, I guess, have some influence. Yeah, we'll see what day 3 holds for the 49ers. They definitely have more picks. After some of the picks that they traded, they have 2 5th round picks now. They have 1 6th round. They have 3 7th round picks. So there's still a lot of opportunity for them to maneuver around, I think, day 3 if they so wish. And I think they should, just because we know this roster is already pretty stacked. And so there's not a lot of space left. What I am surprised about, Karan, is the fact that corners actually hasn't been like a huge position that has like really gone on a run so far, really. Yeah. And I was surprised because this is a deep corner class, right? So
there's a couple of guys. There's a couple of guys on the board that are like crazy. I mean, Keeley Ringo comes to mind as like the main guy who's like, that guy was projected to go in like the top 15 a few months ago. Clark Phillips is still there. That's a guy I'm very high on. So I mean, if they do want a corner outside nickel, there's going to be a lot of guys available. Caillou Blue Kelly, I'm sure. Stanford connection could definitely play a role there. It really, like, the list goes on. Eli Ricks. There's a lot of corners that could definitely fill a need in a variety of different ways.
And the 49ers need corner depth, I feel like, and a lot of it. So maybe day 3 is the day that they try to replenish some of that depth. I definitely would. And I was a little surprised they didn't go edge with one of these first 3 picks as well. I kind of wonder if, like, because Yaya Diaby wasn't there, who, you know, I feel like they would have liked Yaya.
McGuire's on the board. McGuire's still on the board right now. Viliami Fehoko is still on the board. There's a couple of Carl Brooks.
Play.
Yeah.
There's some. That's what I'm saying. There's some good talent still. So I don't know. Maybe these first 3 picks was just like, let's just get these out of the way, and then let's just.
I think they wanted to get their guys, and they saw the right depth at certain positions. We'll see how that plays out, but I think there is definitely a path where they could get one of their top guys at edge and one of their top guys at corner and come out of this draft with a pretty good haul.
Yeah, you know what? I was thinking about this. You know, even if they don't get an edge rusher or like a premier edge rusher in this class, there's some decent free agents still available that, you know, I was like, Yannick is still out there. I think he can be an option. And the 49ers did free up some cap space by restructuring Christian McCaffrey's contract today. About $8 million was freed up. So I don't know, maybe they're positioning themselves to bring in some free agents after the draft. That could definitely be an option. But look, really quickly, Karan, I want to talk about the Seahawks draft because they have absolutely
been doing their thing. Yeah.
Oh God. Well, first they got Devin Witherspoon at 5, which, you know, a lot of people were a little confused about. A lot of people thought they would maybe go Jalen Carter with that pick. Anthony Richardson went like right before then, so I really think they would have considered Richardson at 5 had he not gone before.
I do too.
But Devin Witherspoon with Tariq Woolen, like that could be
the Witherspoon thing, it's like it's a bit confusing, but it's also like a great pick nonetheless. They got the best corner in the draft, arguably. And I mean, Carter, there's obviously valid concerns that could lead to him falling. I think that was in the back of everybody's mind coming into the draft. So I mean, they got Witherspoon. Then they got JSN with the 20th pick. That's a phenomenal pick. And even like Pete Carroll on Twitter, he was teasing that pick like a day in advance. He posted a bunch of things implying they were going to take JSN. So I don't know what they were cooking, but it definitely worked in the first round.
Yeah, seriously. And they also got Derek Hall and Zach Charbonnet today. So definitely the Charbonnet pick is also a little, I guess, confusing because they already had Kenneth Walker. But I mean, you can't argue with having,
it's insurance. I mean, Walker was injured last year. He started the year injured, and I think he suffered an injury later in the year. So it's definitely not surprising that they would want some insurance. And they got a guy who, either way, he complements Walker very well. He's a much faster running back. He could provide more through the air, while Walker's a more powerful guy. So I mean, it really works out in their favor either way.
Yeah, so they've had a great draft, which, you know, they kind of always do, honestly. These last few years, they've been replenishing their roster through the draft, and it's working. They're really close, I think. And Eagles, who are already up there in the NFC, also having a great draft. So especially their first round. So and the 49ers got a kicker.
Whoever posted that thing where it's like the Eagles got Nolan Smith with the second, like I saw, it's just so like, it's crazy. I mean, those guys are in great positions to make early draft picks. The Niners have kind of relied on later 5th round picks, obviously, throughout their tenure. So it's really just it's 2 different ways of building a roster, and both have kind of proven to work. So we'll have to see.
So we'll see. We'll see what happens, day 3. I was bummed that Marty Mapu, went kind of early. I feel like they would have considered him with one of their 3.
I thought they were gonna go linebacker, to be honest, with one of the first 3. But they might have someone still on the board.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll get a gem out there. I like D Winters. I know there's a
Yeah,
couple of
Blue
other
Winters is
guys
definitely a guy who could
that
come
really
in.
nice.
Aubrey Miller.
Yeah.
There's a few good players on the board. I mean, linebacker is an interesting position. I mean, they've went deep in the draft for Dre Greenlaw. Alshire was undrafted. Flanagan Fowles undrafted. And Warner was a third round pick, I'd like to say. So, I mean, it's not like you have to get a blue chip talent there.
Right. Yeah. I mean, they know what they're looking for. As long as they can identify that talent, I'm not too worried about it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess I'm excited for day 3, seeing what they do. It can't be much worse than taking a kicker, right, and a tight end that not everyone really knows, but let's just see what it looks like in a few months and in a year. Let's wait to hold some of our judgment. The good news is Trey Lance, Brandon Ayuk did not get traded. I never thought they would personally, but maybe that's a conversation we have later this year or next year, at least for Ayuk or Debo. So we'll see. But for now, I mean, overall grade for day 2 49ers. What do you give it?
I mean, I think Brown. It was obviously a great pick. Moody will be a starter at the very least. I think he'll start for them, so you can't say it's an F outright. And I think Latu, whatever, you got your backup tight end out of the way, so I think you go with the solid C, maybe a C plus if Brown. If you're really high on Brown. But I just think, you got Brown. You got those two picks out of the way. Clearly, Moody wasn't going to be there in the 5th round, and they traded up for Brown, which they clearly wanted him. So between those two picks, you're getting two potential starters who were quite good in college. So
I think
it is what it is.
I think I would give it about the same as well. I was really excited about the Brown pick, but the others just like gonna have to wait and see how they do. Again, the Moody pick could be a slam dunk, but like we don't know. we don't know. Like,
I mean, it's a kicker. Like,
it's a kicker, man. It's a kicker. Jesus, it's like if he was Michigan's like leading scorer or something, right?
Yeah, I mean, that could be.
Isn't
Robbie Gould like the 3rd leading scorer ever in like NFL history?
Yeah, so we'll see if he can do the same for the 49ers, I guess. But Karan, I might open this up for like call-ins if people are down. I don't know if you have like extra time, but if not, like
I can stick around. I can stick around for a bit.
Okay, cool. So I'm just gonna, if you guys want to call in, I'm gonna drop the link in the chat if I could get there. 1 second. It's not letting me scroll down for some reason. Okay. 1 second. I gotta figure this out. I'll put it in the description of this video in a second once I have the link.
Breaking news from the 49ers. They will not be picking up Javon Kinlaw's 5th-year option.
Oh, that's not breaking news.
It may come as a shock, but
it may come as a shock. Did someone say it may come as a shock?
No, but that was my synopsis.
Okay. All right, guys. I just dropped the link. If you guys want to call in, cuss us out, talk about go on a rant, talk about the 49ers pick, whatever you want to do, just hit that link. It should work on your phone or a laptop, whatever you're on. It should work just fine. And just let us know what you think. Yeah, the Javon Kinlaw thing is not, so surprising.
Yeah.
I knew that, John Lynch probably just hadn't told
that was coming for him. Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? I wouldn't want to tell him either. If I was Lynch, I would just been like, yo, Peters, can you tell him? Wouldn't want to make that dude angry.
I mean, they didn't draft a defensive lineman, so let's see. Maybe there's a path for Kinlaw to figure it out.
I was surprised that Adebaware is still out there too.
For sure.
And DeJuan Jones, like I thought both of those guys would probably be like second rounders at least. But
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes down to scheme. I mean, especially with DeJuan Jones, like with the Niners especially, I never really saw him as a scheme fit, and I think a lot of similar teams, the Rams took an offensive lineman, all those West Coast type of teams, he wasn't really a fit for, and that ends up falling.
yeah. So we'll
Yeah, but Blake Freeland's still on the board also.
Yeah, I'm surprised about that too. Like, so the first round, there was a huge run on like tackles, and
Yeah,
I think because teams know all of the talent was at the top for offensive. Well, not all offensive linemen, but for tackle, right? So
yeah,
I think that's part of the reason why now it's like, I don't know, maybe teams just aren't as high on Blake Freeland and the guys who are left.
Yeah. I think part of the thing this year has kind of been we haven't really heard as many rumors. A lot of the stuff came, like especially the first round we saw, like guys, Jahmyr Gibbs, for example, went really high, but then it came out right after they're like, okay, that guy was gonna go 3 picks later anyways. The league was much higher on him than others. So I think that could be playing a part here.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting that like running backs were like such a valued position in the first round.
And then like Will Levis is falling out, so it's like a lot of guys are sort of all over the place. Receivers, Josh Downs almost made it the Niners pick. I thought they should have considered that one heavily if it were to slide a few more.
At the same time, like Mingo, for example, who like was a great 49ers fit, like he went earlier than I thought he was going to go. So, to your point, it's all about scheme fit at this point where teams have certain players isn't based on best available always. It's about best available within our scheme.
And I mean, one can that was the thing with both Moody and Latu. So hopefully something comes out after that. Oh, Latu is going to go start in the 4th round, and Moody was a guarantee to go in the 4th. Make us feel better.
Yeah, we'll see. I doubt that would be the case. But the 49ers are probably going to say something like, like we got the guys we wanted. Like, we're so happy they were still there.
I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a receiver go to the Niners in the next few rounds. There's a lot of good guys on the board. Demario Douglas was one that was kind of linked to them early. Parker Washington is a guy I'm very high on that I think would be a good fit with the Niners. There's some high-end guys who are still available and some lower tier guys. I wouldn't be Puka Nakua is a guy that I'm a big fan of. His brother played for the Niners. I think that one's, if I were to bet on any receiver in this class going to the Niners, that would probably be the one I would take. Yeah, I think he's just like, it's such an obvious fit there, and there's I don't know if the connection with his brother playing would really play a part, but I feel like he's been on their radar, and that would be one that definitely is there.
Definitely wouldn't surprise me if he was, and if he is, like I think they might be keeping it low key, because he didn't have a top 30, which you don't have to have a top 30 to be drafted by the Niners, but like.
They're kind of all over with the skill positions. They're kind of all over the place, though. I mean, running back last year they took Davis Price. How many people really expected that? They're sort of with the running backs and the wide receivers. They just do whatever.
Like no strategy, just
vibe. The Trey Lance here they took Sermon. I mean, it's pretty wild. Danny Gray.
Yeah, they really never do what anyone expects them to do. It's crazy. Dontavian Wicks is still out there too.
Yeah, Wicks is a very good player.
Yeah,
he was good a few years ago. Boutte.
I think they do get a wide receiver as well, especially like the question we keep asking of like, are they gonna have to pick between Ayuk and Debo at some point, and also Juwan Jennings. Final year.
Yeah, I mean the depth there isn't that much depth on roster as is. I mean Jennings is the wide receiver 3. He's fine. Danny Gray he had like 2 catches all of last year. He could be a decent player, but he's more of a situational.
I think so too. We'll see like what he's worked on, this off season to kind of, build his game a little bit, but
I would still try to bring a more all around receiver into the room.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and that's why I think they should keep Ayuk around because he is like an all-around receiver, and he's only improving with each year. So, having a quarterback I mean, Brock Purdy seemed to me to be more willing to throw downfield than Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah, I mean
Uh,
that's not a high bar, but yeah, Purdy was
yeah,
slinging it. I mean, he was hitting all the guys. Debo obviously didn't play that much in the regular season with him, but he
right.
was getting the ball across the field. I don't think quarterback is really a concern until we see otherwise.
Yeah,
So
I
with the
agree.
receivers, it's whatever. I think they will add another guy, maybe a UDFA. We'll see. But that, and then I mean, running back. Do we think they go with the running back?
I don't know. I guess you can never count it out because
Yeah.
it's Kyle
They seem to
Shanahan.
love, yeah, they seem to just love adding running backs, and there's a few guys that maybe they do like Israel Abanikanda,
Dude,
perhaps.
yeah. If Abanikanda makes it to the 5th
Yeah,
round, I would for sure consider that.
yeah.
He's nice.
Keaton Mitchell, did he get a top 30?
I don't think so.
I don't remember which running backs I
No,
saw. Yeah, he was one that I saw had like a bit in like some sort of connection.
yeah, he met with them at the combine
Okay,
and they've stayed in contact with him
okay.
with like the last so
Yeah, he's a solid player. That wouldn't be a bad flyer at the end of the road.
yeah, I've seen a lot of people like mock him to the Niners, so
Yeah.
I think the fit makes some sense. But yeah, I mean there's a lot of good talent still left. So
Yeah, I mean, Roshan
we'll see
Johnson
what
was
they
the
do.
guy everyone kind of thought would be the
Yeah.
potential Niners third round pick. He's still on the board if they really
Yeah, I was
want to
like,
move
did he
up.
get picked? He didn't get
Yeah,
picked. He hasn't got
then
picked yet.
they've proven they'll move up if they want a guy. They moved up for Brown. They
Exactly.
have some assets left over. If they really want him, they'll move up. But I wouldn't count on it.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I don't know if they
Yeah.
really want a running back that bad. I've been saying for a while now, I think Elijah Mitchell probably gets traded
Yeah,
this
I
season
wouldn't be
if
shocked
they
at
bring
that.
in another running back, but we'll see. I was a little bummed that Michael Wilson went to Arizona.
Yeah, Arizona's quietly had a really nice
They
draft. I mean, like
they
they're in
are.
a terrible situation overall, but they've made some nice picks. They got BJ Ojulari, yeah, Wilson, and then they made the big pick in the first round. So I mean, they're doing their thing. Rams had a surprising amount of picks. We don't usually see them pick that much, but they made some nice picks.
Yeah, Steve Avila was
Steve Avila, yeah, I was a big fan of
pretty
him.
solid.
I thought they would take a flyer on one of the quarterbacks, either Hooker or Levis, but they didn't end up doing that.
They could still get Hayner. Hayner's still out there.
I mocked them. I mocked
DTR
them
is still
Hayner
out
in one.
there. Like there's
Yeah, I think Hayner's a very like talented player. I don't think the Niners go with the quarterback in this draft, but if they did, I would want Hayner. I'm not a big DTR guy.
yeah, to me, like I get it. You like what he can do, getting out of the pocket, things like that. He could be a little elusive. He's not super accurate.
He's a project, but he was also a 5-year starter in college who's on like the older end as a prospect. I mean, I think he's a good guy and he's got some talent, but he's probably not the type of guy who would spend a top 5 round pick on the NFL draft.
Yeah, I agree. I think they probably go like 7th round, or UDFA guy. And I think from now on, they probably just go with like 4-year starters.
Yeah, I mean,
that have that experience.
Yeah, I don't know if they did go with the quarterback. Like Hayner would obviously be the one you want. Tanner McKee, I'm sure John Lynch is out there advocating his heart out to get Tanner McKee on the 49ers. But yeah, I wouldn't be.
Pick, but
I think McKee's a solid player. The game's kind of passed by like his play style, but he's still a solid quarterback.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, I know it's late out there. It's getting late in the over there, so we'll probably call it. But hopefully, guys, tomorrow we're talking about a better draft. I'll be on with Wayne Breezy, so we'll recap the draft tomorrow as well. But Karan, thank you so much for coming on the channel. I've been wanting to get you on for a minute now, and I know like you got a lot of knowledge on like the draft and these prospects, so I definitely appreciate your insight.
Yeah, no, it was great. I'm happy to come on whenever you have an available spot. And yeah,
Sure,
I hope they make some good picks tomorrow, so there's more to talk about.
Yeah, I hope so too, man. Well, yeah, for anyone who wants to follow Karan on Twitter, it's at 905car KAR. At I'm at Steph 49K. For now, have a good rest of your Friday, people. Peace.